screwed, and he could waste a turn waste landing you.
Okay.
Like I said, I kind of like pushing the cantrip axis a couple turns later unless you have to spend them early.
Okay.
Because there's a lot of pressure on you not to flood out.
Yeah. And
Top
as we
decking
saw,
Nobles late and stuff.
the Pithy Needle comes down on Aether Vial. Notably, Aether Vial's triggered ability will still let you put counters on it. Pithy Needle only stops activated abilities.
Which is interesting in with regards to something like Flicker Wisp.
Yes.
Just like coming down, blinking Needle for a turn, and getting an activation out of it.
Also, Council's Judgment, so he'll be able to still tick this vial to a relevant number even if he can never activate it. So,
as we see here, cantrip. We say got it. There's a
he's
Jace,
paying 2
so
for
he
his
doesn't-
Brainstorm because
Yes,
there's a
because of
Thalia
Thalia.
opposing him. Yes.
Yeah, I picked that up pretty quickly. I was like, what's he doing? And then I realized, but
He did also find the fetch off the Ponder, so this will be a perfect Brainstorm either way.
Well, it will be perfect in that. Oh, he does get to fetch because this is his. Before he played a land, I forgot that he did. That he played. That this is turn 3.
Yeah, he was on the play this game.
Yeah, so he's gonna use his fetch land.
So it's interesting that he kept the basic. Oh, so his hand is Island, True Name, Nemesis, Chase the Mind Sculptor right now. So he's probably going to try to play the True Name and then either deal with the Thalia or get to a point where he has a 5th mana to try to cast the Jace.
I like using Port here from Lewis's perspective. If he has a land.
Oh, yes.
I'm not.
Because he wants to make sure he leaves up the Caracas to protect his Thalia. Oh, he has a Wasteland
too.
And a Mother of Runes. Okay. So
I don't know that I love the Mother of Runes. It makes Dread of Night a little bit better.
Are you wastelanding now?
I would have just wastelanded and ported and said, "This is my board development. My creatures, my deck is only going to get. I'm going to draw threats eventually."
Okay. Oh, he's just porting instead of wastelanding. So maybe he may have something like a Gideon Allied Zendikar or another large mana cost threat.
I think I saw a Council Judgment, but the second colorless source doesn't facilitate that anyway. So I'm unsure that this is the correct line.
He must be valuing that land for some reason, though.
Mm-hmm. But Lewis is very good with Death and Taxes, so I kind of trust his word as gospel in a way. But definitely different than what I would have done. Yeah. Again, it's tough for us. There's the library, too.
Yeah.
It's funny that all the things we talked about just showed up.
Yeah.
But, So
the True Name comes down here. Obviously, it names Luis.
Yeah, like those top 5s on Facebook, right? Top 5 things to name with True Name. You, me, cast Pyroclasm, right? But, so he throws it back to Lewis here after resolving True Name, which is a huge victory. And we see Lewis rewarded for his Mother of Runes play because now he can still get in some damage.
Yes. But he really is going to want to find some equipment to make it a relevant clock because obviously 2 is less than 3, and he's going to get caught.
I mean, he does have the
race.
Council Judgment, though. So
yeah, but he doesn't have the second white source yet, I don't believe.
Maybe he saved the land so that he can Council Judgment through Days.
Okay.
Because he realized that Michael would bring Days back in on the play and have a marginally lower number of forces, but a marginally higher number of Dazes. So he's putting high value on a Daze that would otherwise be dead.
Okay.
That makes a ton of sense.
I'll keep porting the what are the
green
2
source?
black sources?
Well, he ported the source that's both green and black to put more attention on his mana if he has Decay.
Okay.
I think.
Because Leovold's the other, not obviously.
Well, with 3 blue sources, he's not at it. There's no dearth of blue mana that you can exploit, which is what I generally exploit from the Death and Taxes perspective. Against the mid-range blue decks, you generally attack their blue mana.
Yeah. So here we're going to see a Sylvan Library that needs to cost 3. But otherwise, it'll resolve.
It does resolve.
Dubious how good it'll be, but worst case, it's a Mary's Guile, which is still going to be relevant.
It will be ensuring that you don't flood terribly. Yeah. I like the Sylvan and I like the Jace from the way this game played out, but I could also see them being rough. Like Michael cast that Brainstorm, and we had no idea he was going to find a fetch land, and that was like a huge point.
No, he found the fetch land off the Ponder. Actually, he had the fetch land going into the Brainstorm.
Makes a ton of sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, so what we're seeing here is one of the small set of problems that can plague Death and Taxes, and that's that they're often at a loss for white mana.
Yes.
And
so here we found the
his
Council's Judgment. Oh, the other reason he needed the land was because Councils cost 4 under Thalia.
Under Thalia, there we go.
So that's why he was keeping the land.
Twitch chat was massacring us over not realizing that. Twitch chat's great, though. What would we do without them?
Yeah. So here we see the voting mechanic trumping the protection mechanic because protection is from...
The interesting thing about the voting mechanic is that it can,
get through everything.
Allow someone to just dumpster fire their game. They can be like, "Oh, I'll vote for this." They'll be like, "Well, I'm going to vote for this," and they're like, "Well, they're both dead." Oops.
Yeah. if you're not familiar with the voting mechanic, it will punish you heavily.
Yeah.
And this works because protection deals with damaging, enchanting, blocking, and targeting, and voting is not any of those 4 things. So voting also gets through things like Hexproof and Shroud for if your opponent ever has like a Nimble Mongoose or a Thrun the Last Troll, what have you.
It also doesn't kill Phantasmal Image because it doesn't target.
Yes, it will actually exile the Phantasmal Image.
I voted for a Phantasmal Image before against Merfolk.
Lords are lords, and they're quite scary sometimes.
See, I believe Michael's library.
I actually think he missed his library trigger.
Oh,
is potentially what happened, and we're just seeing his opponent allow him. I'm not sure what's going on right now, but it looked to me like he had missed the library trigger.
He's holding 2 cards, so I think maybe he elected to pay 4. He has some life he can exploit as a resource here.
Yeah. But it seemed like a very odd sequence so far because it looked like he drew and then made some hand motions. I mean, obviously this is all speculation.
He could play Jace here.
Yeah.
But he can't get a minus activation.
Yeah, so he could play Jason. He could try to brainstorm for more gas, but the library's already kind of doing
dead on board. So, he could Jason hope to
seal.
Brainstorm into Deathrite Shaman.
Or he could just Fate Seal.
I like Fate Sealing.
Yeah.
I almost like Fate Sealing myself.
Yes, because it clears away another card you didn't really want from the library.
His hand at the moment is second True Name, Jace the Mind Sculptor, and the 2 cards he's looking at, I think, are Deathrite and Land.
Yeah, okay, so he just pays 8? Looks like he just paid 8.
No, he just took 1. He just took the Deathrite.
Oh, okay.
Because I think his hand was second True Name, Jace, the entire time.
Okay. So now his hand is just a Jace the Mind Sculptor.
His hand is just a Jace, yep.
The Deathrite Shaman has a ton of food right now, and the True Name is...
This sequencing makes the Jace much better, because we'll be able to brainstorm and garner some positive value from it.
And also the True Name plays very, very strong defense, protecting our Jace.
Even the Deathrite technically keeps the Jace alive.
Yeah, so now do you think that you're potentially supposed to Wasteland to take him off of his 5th source for Jace under Thalia? Is that a line that's on your radar, or do you think that that's not necessarily worth
Wasteland
developing
from Lewis's
instead?
perspective?
Yeah.
I kind of like pivoting from Lewis's perspective and attacking the blue mana now.
Okay.
Like Wastelanding the sea and then porting the Trop.
Coming. Okay. So if he has a land, this is fantastic. But if he doesn't have a land, then I'm not sure that I like leaving a Wasteland.
Well, you can't take it with you when you go, right? You got to get it out there somewhere.
That's fair. So
and Lewis is...
He's leaving up Caracas to protect his own Thalia through a Mother of Runes, though, rather than leaving up Wasteland. I'm not sure. I guess he just assumes that, there's a Deathrite in play, so he can't cut him off the 5th mana no matter what.
Yeah, it's possible the ship has sailed on mana denial at all, and Lewis is just making sure that all his top decks are good.
That makes sense.
That he can cast all his spells, especially under Thalia. So, like, protecting himself or insulating himself against drawing something like Gideon, or against leaving up Wasteland or Thalia.
Yeah, or if he rips another Judgment.
Council's Judgment, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. He also may have a dead Caracas that he's been floating as a Lotus Petal. We haven't actually gotten to look at the Luis's hand in a while, so he may just already have that 5th mana source.
He also might have Batterskull, too. That would explain this a little bit.
The Batterskull, unfortunately, costing 6 means he's really going to want to find a Stoneforge Mystic instead, rather than trying to hardcast that.
Ideally, of course. We got
so this has got to be Jace, yeah. Oh, and we have another Brainstorm also.
Who knew Jace Unraveler of Secrets was playable in Legacy? 5 mana, bounce your thing? No. It's actually Jace the Mind Sculptor under Thalia, and we're brainstorming.
Yeah.
One of the most broken things you can do in Legacy is just brainstorm over and over and over.
Jace Unraveler of Secrets would see tremendously higher play in Standard and Modern if it had a Brainstorm ability.
There's a bunch of different schools of thoughts where, like, what do you do when you play Jace? Do you just, like, Fate Seal and try to kill them with it? And I used to be like, I tried to use it as a win condition, like Fate Seal immediately and try to just win the game with it. And I think there's some decks where you do that. But I also just think there's a lot of credence to brainstorm every single turn until you give up. Just over and over and over.
As a Miracles player, I'm relatively threat light, and I still find myself just always making it a 4-mana brainstorm that maybe does more things. Like, I'm still almost always find myself pushing the 0 button when it enters.
The brainstorm, supplemented by the threat of another brainstorm, puts a ton of pressure on your opponent to deal with it, which, from the Miracles perspective, plays right into your hands.
Yeah, exactly. Especially because all your brainstorms are much higher upside when you get to put back at 1 mana Wrath of God.
Like, all Michael wants right now is removal spells.
Swords. Okay.
Yep.
So Swords lets him try to suit up the... Yes. And then he can give a protection. And he can put the Jace to 1.
Yep.
I think you got to attack Jace, right? Because GT works such that you get counters no matter how you deal damage.
So I think you got to attack Jace.
Yeah.
We're going to see some
So this is
if
gonna
Michael's
be
library finds a fatal push here, it's going to be
an abrupt
a
decay.
disaster.
Yeah.
Yeah, or an abrupt decay. It's going to be a disastrous turn for
yes,
Lewis.
because his shields are totally down. He's tapped the Caracas and the Mother of Runes. So
Yes.
this really shows how
Well,
scary the Jace actually
ideally,
was to
he
him.
doesn't want to have to use a Jace minus on Mother or
Yeah.
Thalia, but I think he would at this point.
I would probably unsummon the Mother of Runes if I don't have another way to answer it. But this also just speaks to how scary the Jace was from Luis's seat, that he was willing to take down both shields just to clip 2/3 of Jace's
yeah, like
loyalty.
I said, I think you have to.
Yeah. But I mean, it just goes to show that when your opponent already has a Sylvan Library out, you're still uncomfortable with them just brainstorming every turn.
It would be
it's just
interesting
that
to
powerful.
rewind this and see what would have happened if he just targeted the needle with.
Oh, and just had his vial turned on?
Yeah, a long time ago.
So
So the needle, I think, is actually off screen right now, but
Yes.
we promise it exists.
yeah.
It's
And it
named
is set to
Vial.
Ether Vial, which
It's
is
informing a lot of Lewis's plays here.
Yes.
That's why he's not just wildly activating Ether Vial,
Yeah.
because he actually can.
yeah, he's literally not allowed to bluff. He's not allowed to activate at all, regardless of bluff. So here we see unsummon on Thalia, actually. Do we maybe have another Jace coming, or it was just this?
A hard cast Force of Will, maybe?
Yeah. That would make sense, but that's already on via Deathrite.
Well, without a second threat, I think it's right to target Thalia. Just makes your cantrips
Yeah.
better.
Well, you're also just never supposed to attack.
Oh,
with
he
Mother
just
of
found
Runes.
the second Jace.
Oh, jeez. Yeah. Okay. So this is just
So he goes
insane.
minus second, or put 2 back, second Jace minus.
So
Play Noble.
Yeah.
Oh wait, no, he's gonna put.
Well,
Noble
you can play
back.
Noble off the Deathrite still, though.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Play Noble off the death right and attack. For
So I'm
4.
actually probably unsummoning the Mother of Runes with this Jace.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Just
Oh, and
totally
he just doesn't play Noble because he just dies to a GTA activation. There's no.
Oh,
reason to play
yeah, it
Noble.
just gets melted. Yes, that makes sense.
Although if you play Noble, he has to choose between that and killing the death right, which I do think is interesting too.
Yeah. But you can also just
See,
play
now
the
he's doing
Noble.
Deathrite.
The Sandbag Noble is good for more damage, potentially.
Yeah, it's clock that you didn't realize was clock or
Yeah.
whatever. I like that too. This just speaks to how many decisions there are in Legacy.
Oh, yes.
Like in a fairly academic game for Michael, that like very much was not a fairly
Yeah.
academic game early on. It turned into like pretty simple.
And we've had equally difficult decision trees in the deck that didn't even have Brainstorm in it, just because of all the activated abilities floating around on his lands and his different permanents.
Because of the like the priority put on mana denial from the average Death in Texas game leads you to believe that you're supposed to do it a lot from the
Yeah.
perspective, but sometimes you just aren't, and you're supposed to be like a weird mono white control.
Yeah,
deck.
sometimes you're just mono white control, sometimes you're just white weenie, sometimes you're like a pure steel paladin deck where you just build a Voltron.
Yep.
Basically, I mean that's one of the marquee
Flicker Wisp
things of a
targeting-
legacy deck.
Targeting
though.
a land here.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, so again, this means he probably doesn't have a 3-drop because he could have done the play of Flicker Wisping out the vial and
Just
then
gonna
activating, Flicker Wisping
Vial.
out the needle and then turning on his vial for a 1-turn window.
And we see Michael's activating library, draw step.
Yeah.
Now, one thing I'm glad I don't have to do very often is activate Sylvan Library on Magic Online because it's just infuriatingly
Yeah.
difficult.
Oh, yes.
It's like choose 2 cards to put back, and when you cube, you're just like, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
And then I just choose the wrong things and just take 8 damage.
Yeah. Yes. Every time. Yeah. Magic Online, great for playing Magic, not great for finessing anything.
Yeah, all of my like skill set, I feel like it's just, I don't know, I just like
jeez.
playing paper.
So we have a hand. So we have 2 Thalias, a Mother of Runes, a Flicker Wisp, a Mirren Crusader, another Ether Vial, and a Batterskull. So if he finds the 5th land, he may be able to try to race with this Batterskull, but I'm not super interested in either Thalia.
So he Jace bounced the Flicker Wisp, so...
Yes.
Oh, there's Mirren Crusader. Mirren Crusader's a
Yeah.
good one.
So the Mirren Crusader can get suited up with the GT, but that requires a turn of setting up a Mother protection, right? Because otherwise he's just going to unsummon each threat you play. I do still like potentially jamming the Mirren into the last Jace loyalty, though.
Oh, it doesn't have black mana. It went to play
Yeah,
Leopold,
yeah,
but didn't have
yeah.
black mana.
He tapped.
Oh, the old post-combat noble.
Yes, always strong.
But
But I mean, into the face of a GT with no counters and no creatures in play, I think it's fine either way.
What happened is he clearly thought he could play post-combat Leopold and then
Oh,
realized
yeah,
he didn't
yeah,
have a
yeah.
third black
Yes.
source. So Lewis wins a little mini-war there in that he attacked the mana the right way.
Yes. Because he ported the Bayou and then he ported the Underground Sea and then the Bayou was used to cast Thoughtseize.
I mean, there's just so much coming though. There's library, there's Jace, there's a true name.
Like he has 6 or 7 cards in hand, and it's just unlikely that the card count matters.
I think the Flicker Wisp could have